Some Girl I Used to Know is based around a character called Stephanie Camworth. It's all set in a hotel room. She's a high-flying businesswoman. She's got her own lingerie label, very successful. She's in a marriage with Paul, who's a very lovely, stable husband. There's a few issues there with the husband because he'd like her to slow down with work and have a child. She doesn't quite feel ready. She's on a business trip in the show and she gets a message on Facebook from an ex-love of hers who was the big love of her life, her first love. And he's in town and he's proposing to come and meet her at the hotel in the room, and she's debating in the first act whether or not to meet with him. And there's a lot of flirting going on and she has to come to a decision if she's going to stay in her marriage with Paul or if she's going to take up the opportunity with Sean, the ex, and maybe go on a date with him and have a little bit of a date night in the hotel. So it's kind of about her predicament of being in a situation where she has to make big choices, life-changing choices. I'm the co-writer of the play. I've been working on it with a fabulous writer called Terry Ronald, who is a close friend of mine, and he's a brilliant writer. And he was the person that I wanted to do this show because I knew I had a story to tell that would reach out to a lot of women of my generation. And Terry just seemed like the perfect person to put pen to paper and to make it come to life. So the reason I wanted to do it was because I grew up watching Shirley Valentine, and obviously it was a huge success, and at that particular time it had so much impact and women could relate to it. But I just feel for a younger generation, for my generation, who are now all like mums and perhaps, you know, some people are in happy relationships, others not so happy. There really needed to be a voice that would speak out to those women. And so I wanted to do a modern day version of Shirley Valentine. And so I've kind of turned it on its head because Shirley Valentine's obviously the downtrodden housewife, whereas in my play, she's the very sort of high-flying, successful businesswoman, but still not happy. So really the story is about, you know, you can look on the outside to have everything, but is that what you've really got? Because life's nothing without love. Most of the situations that Stephanie goes through or has gone through, and I've kind of been in that situation, like most women, which is why I think a lot of women will like this play, and I'm hoping they'll like it, because they'll see a little part of themselves in Stephanie and they'll relate to it. They go, oh, that's me, I've been there, I've had that experience. The reason I wanted to put music in the show, and it's not a musical, a jazz hands musical, because it is very much a play. We say it's a play with music. The reason I wanted to add music is because the story spans across the 80s and 90s up to current day, and when Stephanie Camworth is reminiscing about the 80s and the 90s, it just felt like you needed iconic songs from those days to go into the play, otherwise you can't really create the atmosphere in the scene as well, so it just felt very fitting, and it works. And of course out of that we've now got a great original song called Some Girl I Used to Know, which ends Act 1 and opens Act 2. And it's nice actually, it sort of just evolved from rehearsal, and everything's sort of fallen into place, and even the songs and the lyrics of the songs that we've put in the show, really, you know, they work with the story, so it kind of all fits well together. I'd say for me, it's like putting my dream role on stage, because people always ask me, having done you know, shows like Chicago, Tell Me on a Sunday, which are all fantastic, people always ask me in interviews, what's your dream role? And I've always wanted to sort of go, well, it hasn't been created yet, but it's kind of true, really. I had this idea in the back of my mind and I wanted to create it myself because I knew what I wanted to do, and I wanted it to be a roller coaster of emotions. And there are very few plays or shows or female leads where you get to do that, where you can be humorous and then have people crying and then, you know, just to move people. So I'd say this is my dream role. Probably the most daunting thing I've ever done, because a one-woman show is challenging. There's a lot to learn. We've had very little amount of time to rehearse and put it all together. But I like a challenge, like a true Essex girl.